Members, it is the appointed time for the meeting and we have a quorum. On the agenda for the meeting today, there are 7 funding proposals submitted by the administration, and these will have to be processed by this subcommittee. I'd like to remind members that if you have direct or indirect pecuniary interest related to the discussion items on today's agenda, please declare the nature of such interest before you speak on those items according to ROP 83A. And also like to draw your attention to ROP 84 and the voting regulations where there is a direct pecuniary interest. Item 1 on the agenda, Head 703 buildings. PWSC 2015-168, 66 RE expansion and renovation of the Hong Kong Museum of Art. Members are invited to recommend to the Finance Committee the upgrading of 66 RE to Category A at an estimated cost of $934.4 million in money of the day prices. On the 12th of May 2014, the administration consulted the HA panel. Members do not object to the administration putting forth the funding proposal to this subcommittee for consideration. According to members' request, the administration provided supplementary information to the HAP on the 15th of July 2014, and the main gist of the report has been tabled for members' information. Answering members' questions today, we have from the Administration, Home Affairs Bureau, the Architectural Services Department, and also Leisure and Cultural Services Department staff. Is it for you, Ms. Angela Lee, that would take us through the paper? I'd like to defer to the Director of LCSD. Okay, Ms. Lee. Thank you, Chairman and members. I'd like to introduce to you the expansion and renovation of the Hong Kong Museum of Art. There are a few objectives. There will be increase of our exhibition space by 42%, and there will be the expansion of existing spaces and also building of new galleries. Also, we are going to provide more entrances so people can access the museum from different directions so it is more accessible. And number 3, we are going to improve our ancillary services. For example, there will be more greening on the rooftop and on the sides, and also there will be a new look for the entire museum. After expansion and renovation, the museum will be integrated with the Arts Square in Salisbury Road, so there will be a better artistic atmosphere with better accessibility and connectivity. It will be a new arts and culture landmark on the seafront of Tsim Sha Tsui East. After expansion, as we said, there will be an increase of 42% of exhibition space. There will be better exhibition facilities and also opportunities for local and overseas artists, and also making use of the new annex block and also the rooftop and also the retrofitted existing galleries. We will be able to cooperate better with exhibitors in Hong Kong, so there will be more exhibition of Hong Kong art. And also where there is a double ceiling height in the annex block, we can exhibit larger pieces from local artists. And also, of course, at the same time, we can exhibit large-scale exhibitions from overseas, so that the Arts Museum will become an important visual arts museum in the district. If we will receive support from the Legislative Council, we hope to start the project in the first quarter of 2016 for completion in the first quarter of 2019. We hope that we can reopen the museum in the second quarter of 2019. I hope members will support the funding request. Thank you. Okay, the floor is now open to members for questions. First of all, Mr. Tony Che, Christopher Chong, and then Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Mr. Che. Thank you, Chairman. I basically do not object to this project, but I'd like to seek more information on a few points. Number 1, I understand there will be an art corridor. I'd like to know more about this open space in front of the museum. You are going to turn it into an art corridor. How big is it? How will it be designed? Secondly, near the waterfront, there is a ventilation shaft of the MTRCL. It's quite big. Can you make it look better? Because you are going to renovate the Museum of Art. You will be working on the inside. You will be expanding it. But I'm sure the appearance is also important. I think the ventilation shaft might affect the appearance of the museum. Are you going to do something to it so it can integrate with the museum in a better way? And also, since this will cost over $900 million, I hope you can also give some business to the medium and small-sized contractors. I hope you can break it up into different parts so you can allow small and medium-sized contractors also to be involved. Is it for the director of LCSD to answer, Ms. Lee? I'll answer the first two questions. In developing the Hong Kong Museum of Art, we have given comprehensive consideration to integrating the space in front of the museum. We are indeed going to build an art corridor in front of the museum so that there will be a kind of active art space. Before you actually go into the museum, you will be wrapped in an art atmosphere. There will be exhibitions and also cultural activities that will take place. It is not a very big space, but together with the Salisbury Park, where there is an art square, in fact, near the waterfront, we can integrate the entire space for development. We hope that will be a place with an art atmosphere. So people, without knowing it, will have entered such an atmosphere before they actually access the museum. As for the ventilation shaft of the MTR, there is a functional aspect to this shaft. When we develop the space around it, we will try to also make it better. For example, maybe we can have installation art by local artists around the ventilation shaft so that even if the shaft has a particular function, it will stand out. It will not stand out oddly within that area. We will continue to work on this. As for the project, maybe I can start, but of course the DAS can also supplement. In the planning for this project, we place emphasis on practicality. We are not going to have a lavish project. As I said, most of the money will be spent on adding new galleries. I have checked the price with similar projects in the vicinity of Hong Kong. I think they are comparable and they are reasonable. Mr. Jie, I'd like to say that about the art corridor, I hope you will include improving the outlook of the ventilation shaft in the project. As you know, in overseas countries, people would design the ventilation shaft in such a way you don't know that it is a ventilation shaft. So you have to apply new thinking to this. You don't only look at the function of the shaft. Even if it has a function, you can make it look beautiful. I'm sure the ASD know there are many such examples, and I'm sure if you include it in the project, then people can work on it. Secondly, the administration has said that it is going to coordinate the design of the art corridor with the space around. I hope this will be minuted so that there will not be incongruity between the art corridor and its vicinity. As for the pricing of the project, I don't think you answered my question. I'm asking you also to give some business to the small and medium-sized contractors. Mr. Christopher Chung, thank you, Chairman. I support the project because the museum has a long history. It was opened in 1991. Its outlook and facilities cannot meet present-day needs. I think the $900 odd million price tag should be applauded if we can really complete the project with it. I think the chairman and myself are on the WKCD subcommittee, and even M+ itself, just M+, will cost more than $4 billion, not including the underground space. So I think the Hong Kong Museum of Art should afford a large exhibition space which would not be much smaller than M+ after it is expanded. I think the point is accessibility by the public. You have to allow the public to be able to make use of it. We have a shortage of exhibition space. How can we make available space for our artists to stage exhibitions? And also, you should not just have the cultural center and the Museum of Art, because I don't think they look well. Now that you are going to provide public art space, I hope you will make use of the museum to stage more visual arts, so people will look at this as a new landmark.
As for the content of exhibition, I don't think it's okay to overlap with M+. I'm not an artist, but I don't know why M+ would like to keep signboards. But with your decades of history for the Museum of Art, I hope that you can stage valuable exhibitions at the site so that we can enhance the cultural knowledge of the public. And thirdly, during the construction period, I think it will take less time than M+, but still there will be a 3 years of enclosed period. It would impact on the public. Can you ever shorten the construction period, or during the period to have the works conducted in stages so that smaller galleries can be kept, where smaller exhibitions can be staged? Director of LCSD. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chung. I'd like to thank Mr. Chung for your support for the plan. As for our new gallery, we will make good use of it, particularly to support local artists so that they can have more venues to showcase their works. We will also reposition a Hong Kong art exhibition gallery, and there'll be more space for local artists to display their installation arts. And along the way, we have had actually allowed and will try to get more local artists to participate. Therefore, a new gallery will have a lot to do with development of local artists. Members just also mentioned about the content of exhibition. The positioning actually ties in with that M+. There'll be no overlaps. I also like to mention that we have tackled the project from feasibility perspective, and we've shortened the construction period. So in the next 3 years, we'll do a lot of work, to accommodate the enclosure, including using the Heritage Museum and other LCSD facilities to showcase works currently housed in the Museum of Art. And we also have mobile arts venues or arts museums to go around various districts to visit schools so that arts can be brought to various districts. We thought about having the construction by stages, but we thought about the feasibility and the costs involved. And also we consider having the renovation done and to allow for people to enjoy arts in a dust-free, quiet environment. We decided in the end to close the museum. That would be the best option to us. Next one is Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Chairman, I very much support this project. Hong Kong's culture and arts, creativity. Actually, when it comes to that, there are a lot of outstanding artists, like traditional paintings in China in the last century. There were a number of top artists. The Ning-Non style artists are very renowned. And there are also Chinese artists well known internationally, like Chiu Song-ong, Ding Hyuyong, and so forth. Chow Xiao-ong's works are displayed permanently at the museum in Shatin, and there's really a permanent site for display of his plays. Ding Hyuyong, a very creative artist that produced Chinese and Western arts. You can rarely have a chance to view his works in public now. His exhibitions was one staged in Taipei. That was the largest scale exhibition of his works ever. I'm sure because there are space constraints in Hong Kong, and it also has to do with the arts and culture policy here. So if we can have more venues for exhibitions, so that local works can be displayed more regularly, that would be something worth doing. As for the construction itself, I've got some question. As for the consultants fees, besides the consultancy work on lighting and facade, there are also other expenses. So I'd like to ask about in this expansion, does it cover also involve the installation of multimedia facilities? If you go overseas, go to the museums, galleries there, they will have multimedia facilities to showcase their works. There are also wireless facilities, audio introductions of various pieces of works. I know the Museum of Art will have these facilities, but would you upgrade them as well during the expansion? Director? I'll ask the Deputy Director to answer that. Thank you, Mr. Low, for your question. Yes, we have reserved a budget for incorporating new technology. The Museum of Art basically is a place for arts works, so we do hope that the facilities will help the public enjoy them. For some thematic exhibitions, we will actually cover the expenses from our recurrent expenditure. We will indeed increase the facilities. Okay, back to the gallery, the permanent gallery. Can you take us through what about the number of collection items in the museum, and what proportion of works that are shown regularly? If the proportion is low, then that means people won't be able to see notable works until many years later. Can you give us a rough figure, please? Deputy Director. Thank you, Dr. Low. We are doing this upgrading because we want to increase space for showing our collection items and local works. We've got 16,000 pieces of works in our stock now, but because often we had to stage exhibition of overseas works, so the proportion of local works is about 5%, less than 1%. So we hope that with the new gallery, we can increase the number and the chances of exhibition of local works. Next one, Wu Chi-Wai. I think the Museum of Arts, how it looks in the future, well, there won't be much dispute about it. I'm more concerned about the period when the museum is closed for 3 years. Just then I heard that you will have outreach services. I'm sure the director can elaborate on the specifics of the outreach service. If you don't have the details today, you may provide us with the information in writing later on. And last time at the Home Affairs panel, I pointed out that the museum actually covers a broad scope of artistic works, comparing it with Heritage Museum or other LCSD facilities. the museum is of a much bigger scale. So we were thinking whether we should, use the cruise terminal as a temporary exhibition site, so that the Kai-Tak cruise terminal can have a better use of its space, and there can be focused activities there, and there can be more space for artistic exhibition. So, Director, would you have any thoughts on that? Or can you tell us? No, you're going to provide outreach services, but how about some large-scale exhibitions? Where can they be held instead during the 3-year period? Director? Thank you, Mr. Wu. Let me just explain briefly about our reaching out services. We have managed to get some donations that will allow us to create a mobile gallery, a truck, indeed, a truck-converted museum, which will house our exhibits and other interactive equipment. And the van or truck will go to various communities and primary and secondary schools. In the coming 3 years, our plan is to bring arts to schools and the community. We also pay attention to the underprivileged, because for these people, they may find Tsim Sha Tsui too far away for them to go to see arts, and we'll now this time bring arts to them. We also have docents and try to collaborate with local artists so that we can actually bring more arts to the people. Besides the Heritage Museum in Tsim Sha Tsui or in the Kowloon Park, in the Central Library or other galleries in City Hall will also be used. And just hearing from Mr. Wu, we will consider using a lot of other venues that are not run by LCSD to see if we can collaborate with them to stage exhibitions. And the museum itself actually has multiple functions. Besides staging exhibitions, it also has educational and research functions. During the closure period, we will definitely enhance those functions, and we'll collaborate with local universities and other museums outside the district, so that our services can be further enhanced. So you've got so many plans, so I hope that the director can list them out, list the details, so that we can know better during the 3-year closure period what will you do. And just then you mentioned you collaborate with outside organizations to enhance or to provide further exhibitions. I don't know whether you've got any plan for the Kai-Tak cruise terminal, Director. Well, so far we haven't contacted the terminal yet, but we will adopt an open attitude, in collaborating with various organizations. It's also a matter of resources and cost effectiveness as well. Now, Yu Chung, I just noticed that in the paper about ancillary facilities, there's the mention of, audio or video docent services and some exits or barrier-free access, so that disabled people can use your facilities. So I'd like to ask, the overall design for the museum, have you discussed it with people or disabled groups to see how, to enhance or the convenience and assistance available to the disabled people? If you have, please let us know. And secondly, outside the museum, you have planned to install some installations. That's a good idea. But I've also noticed that in other countries like Australia, outside museums, usually there are places for people to jog. Please excuse me. People do like to jog outside the museum. So would you reserve some trails or paths so that people can have leisurely walk or jog there? Director? I think in the design for the expansion, we have thoroughly consider the needs of the disabled. In our experts groups, we have actually discussed the we do have experts in the access for disabled people, barrier-free access, and we've also increased the entrances, barrier-free entrance for disabled people on the ground floor. We also have mobiles, starting doors, and also accessible toilets, lifts, and also audio equipment to accommodate the needs of the disabled. As for nearby facilities like jogging paths and so forth, I understand what you're saying, but let me reiterate that the museum along the entire Tsim Sha Tsui promenade is part of the promenade, and we hope that in the future, once the Tsim Sha Tsui promenade is beautified, the whole area can be an area for people to enjoy not just arts, but to enjoy themselves, relax, and exercise. Well, just I asked whether you had consulted groups for disabled people. And also, I'm concerned about toilets. Often for females, often they've complained that there are not enough, cubicles within the female toilets. I don't know whether the museum, what's the proportion of cubicles in female toilets now?
With regard to the disabled, during the consultation period, we consulted the chairman of the Art with the Disabled group, and through him or her, we consulted the relevant organizations. So the series of barrier-free facilities have taken consideration of giving consideration to these people. What about the blind? If you talk about the visually impaired, as we said, there are tactile paths and also tactile maps for the visually impaired, including the blind. Now I'm talking about consulting them. The Art for the Disabled group consists of people with different disabilities. What about the toilets? The proportion between male and female toilets. Is it for DAS to answer? Chairman, we will act according to the code of practice of the buildings department in designing the toilets. We will not provide less than that standard. On the ground floor, there are 3 male cubicles and 12 female cubicles. You can see that the ratio is 1:4. Mr. Gary Fan. Thank you, Chair. I can identify with the major principles of the paper. The museum was opened in 1991, and if the funding proposal is supported, you will be expanding and refurbishing the Museum of Art after a quarter of a century. So I support it. You say there will be an art corridor. I think that is a good idea, but I have 2 questions. One, positioning. As you know, the government is putting in a huge amount of money to build M+. I understand you are trying to also position yourself so as to complement M+. There are 3 points, and I can understand the first 2 points because you say M+ will focus on contemporary visual art, but the Museum of Art will put emphasis on classical art. However, I think at C, you are overlapping with M+. You say M+ positions itself as a world-class museum that develops content from a Hong Kong perspective with global vision. And the Hong Kong MA positions itself as an important regional museum with a Hong Kong focus complemented by international artistic trends and dialogues. I think you are saying the same thing by using different wording. I hope you can explain this further, so we understand better how you position yourself against M+, and how you have a division of labor with it. Number 2, the LCSD is working very closely with the public. And Director, you said you put emphasis on the practical side, and you are not going to build a lavish museum. I think this is one important principle. Thank you for correcting me. I said the wrong thing when I used the idiom. Now, I think this is a major principle when we spend public money. However, when we are talking about our museum, I think we must be a little cautious. I don't exactly say that we should attach 100% to that principle, because we are talking about art and museum collections. We have to have a balance between aesthetics and functionality. This is a project where we have to attend to both principles. So as for the outlook, I must say frankly that you are not going to improve it too much, especially when there is a big ventilation shaft right in front of you. I'd like to ask the ASD whether you can integrate it with the museum better, because aesthetically it only has the function, but it is not integrated with the design of the Hong Kong MA. Let us look at Pompidou in France. There is a ventilation shaft next to a museum, but it is painted with a very bright and sharp color, so it looks beautiful. And also go to Cheung Kwan O Station. You can see the ventilation shafts, 4 of them, which have vertical greening all over them, because MTRCL would like to sell flats around those shafts. So even if we are going to support you today, we are going to give you money for refurbishing and expanding the museum, perhaps the ASD can still ask the architect to fine-tune the design so that you can make the shaft more aesthetic, so that the Museum of Art will be even more attractive. DLCS and then DAS. As for the positioning of M+ and the Hong Kong MA, I think they play a complementary role to each other. In many advanced cities, there may be more than one museum, so that they can meet the demand of different sectors of the public. I think the member made a very good point. We talked about the positioning of the museums in para 21. Talking about 21C, we like to emphasize that M+ is a world-class museum. It also has a Hong Kong perspective. At the Museum of Art, we position ourselves as using Hong Kong art as a starting point. We like to become a famous museum in the region. We may be similar, but we play a complementary role. There is no overlapping. We like to emphasize that point. As for the other point, I thank members for this reminder. Indeed, we are going for practical value and not luxury. When we consulted the public, we have received a lot of views about the outlook of the museum, and indeed we are going to have a very special and innovative character added to the museum. DAS, thank you, Chairman and the member. I totally agree with the member that apart from functionality, there must be an aesthetic aspect to the museum. We have already considered that in doing the design. We are trying to work within constraints. Certainly, when we do our detailed design, if we can further fine-tune the design, we'll certainly do it. Mr. Albert Chan. Thank you, Chairman. Just now, it is said that there will be an innovative and very special character done to the design. Well, this is the design, but I hope even the collections and exhibitions will also have an innovative and special characteristic. But given the present political atmosphere, there has been political manipulation even in arts activities. This is my worry. You may have an expanded museum which is innovative and which has a special character, but maybe later on you will only show stereotyped exhibits, given the present political atmosphere, given the rule by the Hong Kong communists. The LCSD may become a governing tool. The exhibitions might be there to praise the government and sing the glories of the CCP instead of expressing the freedom of creation. I have this worry. I do believe that officials here and other civil servants working at the museum, 99.9% of them do respect the freedom of expression and creation. But then when there is political manipulation, you, director, and your staff will not be able to do your job. But I like to say that I support and sympathize with the director and her staff. But I also believe that political manipulation will certainly come to pass, and in fact it has already taken place at the LCSD. There was the film exhibition where there was some manipulation. I'm sure nobody will be able to open a yellow umbrella inside the museum. I just want to express my worries. I'm not going to block the project. You call yourself International Art Center, whatever. It is nonsense. These will just be places to sing the glories of the CCP. But anyway, some of those exhibitions can also be valuable. I have a view on the design, Chairman. The Cultural Center and the Museum of Art were designed the wrong way because you used concrete to encave the entire buildings. They say that the Cultural Center looks like a gliding bird if you look at it from the sky, but then it is a bird of concrete. It is the worst cluster of buildings I have ever seen. Our waterfront is so beautiful, but then if you say it looks like a bird when you see it from the sky, well, I can say it's just a heap of concrete if you look at it across the harbor. You want to suppress the pricing, but perhaps you can do a better job if you don't just look at pricing. I don't mind if you spend a little more, because this is the most catching space around our harbor. You have already decided on the tone of the project, but I don't think it's artistic enough. I'm not an artist, Chairman. Since you're not redeveloping it, I hope you can still instill a character to it when you renovate the project so that it can become an architecture that we can be proud of. I hope I can ask you to do a better job so we can be proud of the final product. Director. Thank you, Chairman. With regard to collections and the planning of exhibitions, we will use art as the center of our consideration. We respect our expert groups and other people who would look at collections and exhibitions from the angle of art. As for the design, I'd like to thank the ASD for doing their best to work on both the inside and outside of the museum given its existing structure. We'd like to make it look more transparent. Since this is along the coast, we have included much more possibility and space for people to appreciate the harbor when they're inside the museum. We have green platforms, and the museum is made to look much more transparent. And also, As for the appearance of the museum, it will look much more transparent, and it will look very different from the cultural center and the rest of the cluster. It will assume a very special character, so it will have a branding. Mr. Ip Kin Yun, Chairman, I will speak only briefly, and I don't need a reply. I support the renovation and expansion project. During the project, you have given consideration to children art education. I particularly support this. In para 6, you say you will make use of the rooftop to hold exhibition-related art education for children and youth. I hope you will not just consider it, but in fact turn it into reality. I support the project. If members have no other questions on the project, I'd like to put this to the vote. Those in favor? Those against? I think the majority of members voting support the project. It is endorsed. Item 2 on the agenda. Head 703 Buildings, paper PWSC 15, 117KA Relocation of New Territories West Regional Office and Water Resources Education Center of Water Supplies Department to Tin Shui Wai. Members are invited to recommend to Finance Committee the upgrading of 117KA to Cat A at an estimated cost of $823.4 million in money of the day prices.
Back in 2015, March 24th, the development panel was consulted on this plan, and the members of the panel supported submitting this proposal to the PWSC for consideration. On April 21st, the administration had provided us with supplementary information, and the key points of discussions are tabled before you. Now we have with us the representatives from the Architectural Services Department and Water Supplies Department. So, Director of Architectural Services or colleague from Water Supplies Department to explain this item to us. Is it Assistant Director? Okay. Mr. Lam, can you explain this project to us? Thank you, Chairman. On this item, we're proposing to relocate the New Territories West Regional Office and Water Resources Education Center of Water Supplies Department to Tin Shui Wai. The plan involves actually comprises construction of a new building at a site of about 3,400 square meters at the junction of Tin Chung Road, Tin Pak Road, and Tin Shui Wai. And this will be accommodate the reprovisioning of water supplies department facilities because of the demolition of the existing facilities of WSD Mong Kok. And also, the project also comprises the fitting out and associated works for the reprovisioning of the Mong Kok Customer Inquiry Center. And this actually reprovisioning will also help increase the efficiency of our maintenance and other services. So the new site, there will be a water resources education center with live demonstrations and interactive games. We hope that we can help young people understand more about the use of water. There will also be information on the water resources around the world and water management and so forth. We expect that the project would need a budget of $823.4 million. If PWSC supports this project and if Finance Committee grants the funding, the Architectural Services Department will begin the works in the middle of this year for commissioning in 2017. And, well, the construction will be finished at the end of 2017 for commissioning in 2018. And once the new building is in operation, then we will begin demolition of the Mongkok facilities in mid-2018 and complete the demolition in mid-2019. We have consulted nearby schools, and back in 2013, November, then we consulted the Yunnan District Council. And we also got their support for this item. On March 24, we consulted the development panel. Members supported submitting this item to PWSC. We hope that members can support the funding request. Thank you. So now it's time for Q&A. The first to ask questions is Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. I very much support this item. On the one hand, it can, of course, with the provisioning, help people in the New Territories West get better services. And the Water Resource Education Center is a very good educational resource. I've been to the Education Center in Mongkok. The exhibits there are very well designed and educational. You'll know that in this century, water resources is a global concern. Hong Kong is very fortunate to have the supply from Dongjiang River. But we do need to publicize, the message of conserving water so that our young people, students, can better understand, the importance of saving water. Well, the location of the facility, there are lots of schools around in the site involved, so we can make better use of the center to educate the students there. I'd like to ask you about the design. How are you going to make the facility in the future more open and friendly? So, at the new site, the facilities can be enhanced and also can better serve the community of students there. And second question relates to parking spaces. I'm sure you'll need a lot to, see a lot of the trucks or vehicles going into the site in the future to carry out the works. So can you brief us on the amount of traffic expected? Director of Architectural Services. Well, car parking spaces, I'll ask the Water Supply Department to answer. But as for the design, how we can make it friendly and convenient for students to experience the education center, well, in our design, we will provide live demonstrations so that students or other visitors, when they're at the education center, they can actually have personal experience, of the exhibits, including the stormwater collection system, and also gray water collection system. Okay, Water Supplies Department's Assistant Director. As for the car parking spaces, there will be 50 car parking spaces there. They are for government trucks or vehicles. We've also reserved space. Since the education center will be open to schools and there will be a whole group of people coming in coaches to the site, so we have reserved space for unloading of passengers of the coaches. But we will not encourage the coach to be parked at the site. Okay, next one, Ip Kwok Him. Thank you, Chairman. I will support this item. We've got two questions here. The existing office and the education center are located in a very convenient, busy area, in town. But now it's going to be moved to Tin Shui Wai, a remote area. What impact would it have, you think? Would it be, as effective, as you just said, because your transportation links to Shui are limited. It's very different from the level of convenience now we can have in the existing site. So, of course, I heard from members just then that, well, there are lots of schools around it, but I believe the Water Resources Education Center is not just there to serve nearby schools alone. And also, in paragraph 4, you said that there will be other facilities like ancillary facilities like changing shower facilities and storage facilities. Why do you need them? Why do we need to mention these ancillary facilities? Or do you think these facilities are very important for the center? Assistant Director for Water Supplies Department. As for the location of the site, the existing center is in Mong Kok, together with our New Territories West Regional Office, but the entire land has to be vacated, so they'll be moved to Shui. It will be far away, but since our targets are mostly students and groups, centers, and so forth, and people will come in groups, by coaches. Even though it's quite remote, but if people are coming there together, then they can come as an extracurricular activity. We'll continue to reach out to other schools and groups to encourage them to come by public transportation or coach. Light rail is very convenient as well. People can come via light rail. So nearby there's a light rail station. On your question about why there are changing and shower facilities there, because the regional office is a 24-hour office and handling various engineering projects. It works 360 days, 24 hours a day, so there are staff on shifts. And sometimes the staff may not be able to go home, and so they would need the shower and changing facilities for their use. Thank you. Okay, next one, Leung Chi Chung. Thank you, Chairman. This Water Resource Center, I would focus on this because I think it's the same where you move the regional office, they are civil servants. The Water Resource Education Center will be visited by various people. So I think the question raised by him actually, is something of concern to us as well, because just then the director said that, well, there are lots of transportation links. I know how convenient it is. You have to take the light rail and you have to change. I know for educational centers, normally people go there in groups. Chances are slight that people will go there as individuals, but the location and the transportation links, are actually factors that may keep people away. So you would need to increase your publicity in the future. Don't waste the space. It's not a big space, just about 3,400 square meters. But I'm sure your new education center will be much bigger and have more advanced facilities in the future. So it would be a waste if you just have students going there. I also find from the paper that you said that there will be a car team. 50 car parking spaces aren't that many, and the roads are not wide there. because you have to pass through various traffic lights before you can go to wide open roads. So why you're saying that you have a large fleet of vehicles going in and out of the site? How frequent you think you expect the government vehicles to go to the site? Would that be an impact on nearby communities, because there are some housing estates and there's a bus depot and a gymnasium and schools around there? So would you, because of the nearby buildings, are you concerned about issue of crowd dispersal? Assistant Director of Water Supplies. As for car parking spaces and the number of vehicles going in and out of the site, because we're serving New Territories West, there is a population of 2 million people, stretching from Kwai Chung to Tin Shui Wai, Yuen Long to Mun. We do need the support of a lot of vehicles. So we have, the vehicular ingress and egress and the number of vehicles, and we have submitted rated estimates on them to the Transport Department, and their conclusion is that they shouldn't affect the traffic there. And our fleets will only go out from 8 a.m. and come back around 5 to 6 p.m. on the same day. So that should be beyond the peak hours in the morning or the evening. And there are 2 major entrances and exits, one in Tin Chung Road and the other in Tin Chi Road.
So we have already considered the transport issue. Mr. Leung asked another question. You put it at such a faraway place. Is it just for students and tours that come to visit? Would there be a waste? As I said, we welcome groups who come in coaches. We welcome the coaches if they bring students and other groups in. But as for individual visitors, our working vehicles would leave at about 8 in the morning and will come back only in the evening. And we can think about opening up the car park during the day. If a family would like to drive to the center, they can park there if our vehicles have left the car park. Mr. Albert Chan. Chairman, I give the government a big applause for relocating the regional office and the resource center to Tin Shui Wai. I made that proposal 10 odd years ago. I said government offices and facilities should move to Tin Shui Wai, so Tin Shui Wai will not be perceived as a city of sadness. Mr. Ip Kwok Him said the center is so important, but it is relocated to such a faraway place. Now that is exactly and precisely what the mainstream view about Tin Shui Wai is. This is also how the rich and famous view Tin Shui Wai. That is so far away, we should not go there. That is why Tin Shui Wai has become a city of sadness. In those years, when the Youth Square was moved to Chai Wan, I already criticized it. I said such an important Youth Square would be moved to Chai Wan. What about people from NT East and NT West? People must take transportation for over an hour from Tin Shui Wai to go to Chai Wan. The DAB supported it. It did not say that it is far away. Now the center is moved to Tin Shui Wai. Now you say Tin Shui Wai is too far away. I must correct and reprimand this kind of attitude and statement. 300,000 people live in Tin Shui Wai. Together with Yuen Long and Tuen Mun, there are 1 million people living there. From Shengshui, Taipo, from NT East, you can go to Tin Shui Wai very easily. If you go from Chin Wan and use Tai Lam Tunnel, it takes only 15 minutes. So you should not say Tin Shui Wai is a faraway place. It is just because you don't know the geography of Hong Kong. You don't know Tin Shui Wai. You are naive. This is why you say this. I must correct this. I must put the record straight. So I make a big applause about this decision by the government. Next, contingency fee. I don't know whether you set all contingency fees for projects at 10%. Can you tell me whether this is a formula? Contingency. Is it for the PS to answer, or who will take the question? Normally, we set it at about 10%. But we can have different treatment if there is particular consideration. Well, why is this not a particular project? Because I have seen contingency set at 5% in the past, but maybe there is always cost overrun recently, so policy-wise you set it at 10%. I have seen contingency set at more than 10%. Well, you are like a dog in a manger when you set a contingency. Recently, tender prices have begun to fall because there is a big decrease in the cost of raw materials from 30% to 50%. I understand it if it is at the peak, but now the prices are falling and yet you want to get hold or keep hold of that money. And there won't be enough money therefore for other projects. Do you really need 10%? I'm not going to block the project because I applaud it. But I like you to rethink the 10% contingency fee. And I'm not only talking about the Development Bureau. I hope the FST Bureau will take a look to see whether this is reasonable. Do you require more papers from the administration? No. Mr. Wu Chi-wai? Thank you, Chairman. I have mentioned in similar discussions that the land use at government buildings is not done, that it is used to the maximum. At a recent Q&A session with the CE, he said that we do not have enough welfare facilities in Hong Kong because of a lack of land. You need to look for land, but this also has something to do with the resolve on the part of the SARG to make the best and maximum use of land resources you already have in order to satisfy welfare and community service needs. I know you will give me the same answer. You will say the planning department has set the limits about the plot ratio of this site. I don't want to get the same answer again. My question is, in future projects of this type, I am asking you to include information on welfare services and whether you have submitted a request to the government. If a request is not submitted, we will take the LWB to task. But if you have submitted your request and if land is not given to you, we will ask the Development Bureau. So in future, whenever we use government land or government facility, there must be a checklist to show what welfare facilities have been proposed. You should not just say, oh, we made a round to the departments and then they said they didn't have that need. I think that is inappropriate. The Development Bureau should also take another look. Now the process is the planning department will first set the plot ratio before asking whether any departments would like to use the piece of land. I like you to reverse the procedure. First of all, you look at the demand before you set a plot ratio so that society can see that you take the lead in maximizing land use. Well, I think we need to ask Thomas Chow, the PS, to answer. I think the first question has to do with the GPA. Maybe Mr. Young can take the question. Okay, Mr. Young? Chairman. Actually, the GPA and the planning department are reviewing the mechanism now. In future projects, we will try to see how we can maximize the use of land. A review is being undertaken. When will you complete the review? The timetable, please. We have just started to review the rules. I hope that within 2 months we can complete the task. Anything to add, Mr. Chow? With regard to GIC sites, I think it is good to adopt a parallel approach. If departments ask for space, then the planning department will be able to consider such requests when they set the height limit and the plot ratio. I think the two can go in parallel. Chairman, very often there is a time gap between the request and the availability of land. Say, for example, if we need some recreational space, we might not have it. So whenever you do something to government buildings or government land, take the opportunity every time and inject flexibility so that you include the requests from departments so you can take care of the community's needs. Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman, I agree with Mr. Wu Chi-wai. The PS, when you ask around what facilities are required, the PS should include more questions. Some departments may be more passive, but we need some facilities urgently, so you should actually ask them whether they want to build certain facilities, and so you can have a multi-use building. This building is going to be 7-8 stories high, but we want you to make the maximum use of land whenever you have it. So you should ask departments and ask 1 or 2 more questions so you can push ahead the facilities. My question is about Para 6. You say if we support the project today, you can start the demolition in mid-2018 and complete the demolition in mid-2019. You take 1 year to demolish a building? I'm not an expert in demolition. I don't know whether you do this in Hong Kong, but if you insert explosives into a building, I have seen it in other places, and the entire building will just collapse. Do you always use 1 year, take 1 year to demolish a building? DAS? Thank you, Chairman. We'd like to do the demolition ASAP, but our initial investigation has shown that there is asbestos in the building. If we have to remove asbestos, it will take a long time. We'll have to have registered contractors who will work under very close supervision. Okay, fine, if there is a safety consideration. Still, we want you to expedite the project because everybody is saying you are working at a snail's pace. Para 8, you say after moving to NT West, speedy attendance to operational emergencies can take place. What do you mean? Is it that you can't do this when you are now in Mong Kok? WSD? Thank you for the question. Our office is in Mong Kok, but it serves NT West. If there is urgent repair to be done in NT West, we still have to send vehicles from Mong Kok. But if we are relocated to Tin Shui Wai, we will be exactly in NT West. So there will be speedy attendance to operational emergencies. What about other districts? We have other district offices for Hong Kong and Kowloon. Thank you. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. Chairman, the entire Hong Kong is in the construction industry. According to the paper, you say after demolition, we will develop residential, commercial, hotel, GIC, and other purposes. Amongst these, residential is one of the options. You also have commercial, office, hotel, open space, GIC. You have been to Macpherson playground. You resumed the old Elizabeth Stadium, and now you have super luxury blocks in Mong Kok. Your policy is to get GIC site in the middle of the city for developers or even housing society or URA to put up blocks. I hate this. Why do you want to do this? I can understand that you need to move the WSD offices, but you don't even know what the vacated space will be used for. I will say it again: residential, commercial, office, hotel, open space, and or GIC facilities. You say, frankly speaking, we now give you the money, but we don't even know how you are going to use the vacated land. This is heart-rending. Is it that we don't have land? You took part in the march to the liaison office on Sunday, Chairman. Apart from shouting slogans, you must have been looking around from the Central Market to liaison office. Let us not talk about Devote Road Central, but just Queen's Road Central and Queen's Road West. A lot of residential blocks have become hotels. That is why we don't have flats for the people. The Development Bureau and Buildings Department, you don't do planning. Space that should be used to house people has become hotels. Just like in Bangkok, there are 3-star, 4-star hotels all over the place in Bangkok. So, Chairman, whether we give them the money, Mr. Ip Kwok Him, the pro-establishment camp, they are really substandard. They say Tin Shui Wai is remote. The wetland park in Tin Shui Wai is so much frequented by mainland visitors. Go there, they walk around eating ice cream. They go there also to take a look because it is close to the mainland.
I'll call on my staff. If you're not sure what to do with the land, who lives in the Kowloon West? Any members from Kowloon West? Helena Wong, you must say this. You'll be very upset. Kowloon West in that district has become an area for tycoons. From the station, the high-speed rail station all along, the whole area there is properties bought by rich people. You've been to Madison Playground, right? It's all rich people who gather around there. What's the government doing? Ho Man Tin estate has been re-demolished and turned into a luxury property. And our chief executive said that we cannot find any land. Well, all the people are involved in property development now. Simply put, everyone will be doing property development. Mr. Lang, who would you like to respond to your point? I'd like Dr. Helena Wong to tell us, the level of sadness in Sai Yi Street and Madison Playground in the area there. Every time it's like this. 6 sites, the Development Bureau. If you want to turn it into a site for home ownership scheme flats, I would support it. But no, this time you are turning the site into residential, commercial, hotel buildings. Helena Wong will decide herself. Okay, next one, Dr. Kenneth Chen. I think we need some background information. This item has been talked about for several years, but right now, looking at the paper again, even judging from the administration's responses, it seems to me that we don't yet get enough background information. If it's to go to Finance Committee, we need more. Asbestos. Well, the government has confirmed that there is asbestos found at the site. You said your preliminary study has been done, but I'd like to know more about the outcome of your study on the asbestos there. Is it because the results has actually influenced your decision? The Development Bureau was told that they would be given the information, but what are your results? And also the tree study is also important. You mentioned that in Tinshui White site there are 19 trees. There are important trees, and you say that some will be felled and others will be transplanted, but you said you cannot make a final confirmation on the impact yet, but can you let us know what the result is? I do support and appreciate the government efforts in trying to preserve the endangered species, but can you do it in such a way that, like what happened in previous projects, that the trees ended up being felled and could not be retained? So I just want to get more precise information. Back in 2014, the development panel, when discussing this paper, that is when the administration suggested moving the storage facility of a service water supply department office in Yunnan to the new site. In the paper issued in March, and this paper, there's no mention of that relocation again. Have you changed your mind? And could you let us know more about the latest, about the what will happen to the storage and so forth? University staff is also very concerned about the Water Resource Education Center. The Mongkok one was built with more than $4 million. I'm sure using resources from Water Supplies Department. And now the administration is going to commission a consultant costing more than $10 million to produce and design exhibits. I do hope that, as the next step, I hope that you can provide us with concrete information on the exhibits at the Water Resources Education Center. Are the current exhibits in Mongkok, will they all be just disposed of? What will be the fate of these exhibits there? And nobody would doubt the direction of having such a center, but the question is how we can present a center that is really educational and enhance public awareness of the water resources. I mean, what sort of consultants do you have in mind? I mean, are there any other people in Hong Kong that can help you instead? How are you going to find suitable consultants who could help with your exhibition policies and production of exhibits in relation to the education center? Okay, Assistant Director of WSD. I'll try to answer the what happened to the Yunnan Regional Office and the storage facilities there. The Yunnan Office and the storage in Menchong building will also be moved to the new site in Tinshui Wai. As for the new Water Resources Education Center, we're going to hire a consultant to provide professional services. They will, of course, look at the design of the center and see, the temporary center in Mongkok, the exhibits there, whether they can be moved there or be reused. For details, we have to wait till we've hired the consultant. Later on, we can give you the details about it. But I do like to thank Mr. Chen for your concern. Once we've hired a consultant, we will make things clear with them. How about the asbestos survey and trees survey? ASD Director, as for asbestos, based on our preliminary study, I know that we find that there are asbestos in the building, but the proportion and the amount we don't know yet, because a lot of the asbestos are hidden in the decorations or pipes. So we have to wait till once the Water Supply Department has moved out before we can carry out a more detailed investigation to determine the scale and the size of the asbestos concentration. Trees, who can answer that? Well, Mr. Chen, I think the administration isn't very sensitive to trees. Well, I'll be quick. The Water Resources Education Center, I know the current one isn't of a big scale at all, so I understand why it's not pretty low profile and just doing some organized activities on an appointment basis. And now you're asking us, let's go for money to do a better center. I know that you are going to hire a consultant, but the administration has to have some preconceptions in mind first. How are you going to enhance public awareness and education? You can't just rely on a consultant because the consultants may just want to avoid making mistakes as much as they can. So the administration's stance should be one of being very open and proactive. Otherwise, nobody will go there. And the director of audit report would just tell us later on that you've wasted your resources. So please take note of that. Okay, Permanent Secretary, PS. In response to Mr. Chan's query on trees, our colleagues haven't prepared the information yet, but we will give you the information in writing. We've waited for it for half a year. Well, we're very concerned about trees. Please don't misunderstand that we don't care. As for the Water Resources Education Center, I share the same view as Kenneth Chan. Water resources is very important. We will be very proactive and in trying to make the center to be convenient to students and the larger community. As my colleagues have said, we have to wait till we've hired the consultancy before we can give you a detailed plan. But we certainly share your view on the overall direction. Dr. Kwokaki? Chairman, I will not object to this item, but just have noticed that the government properties representatives say that they will review how to make good use of land. The future center will be very close to residential areas. Chairman, if you go to Yunlong, you'll find that along the cluster of village houses, the care homes for elderly people are just like hell on earth. The conditions are so bad. Leung Chun-ying said that the biggest issue is the shortage of land. But it's very clear that the CE is not going to do anything. We're not surprised by that. But I think we do have some expectations for technocrats. Is it possible that after your review, the land can be made better use of? We've been waiting for lots and lots of land to build care homes, residential homes for elderly people. If not, the government would not have invested in a $10 billion inviting NGOs to release any land they own. But now the government has its own site here that can be zoned for new uses. Just then the government said, there is the rail link, light rail link and train service. So if we have got the transportation links, then why can't we consider? I don't know how the administration will respond, but you can allow for alterations to the existing plan. That is, changes can be made to the site formation so that space can be reserved for the building of community services in future. Otherwise, it will be a waste. This land is so precious and should be made good use of. Assistant Director, Water Supplies Department, any supplement? As for the plot ratio, right? You talk about the plot ratio, right? Well, Chairman, the plot ratio is limited by its original use, of the site. If the site is planned for use for community or GIC, then the town planning board is like a rubber stamp body. If you don't confirm the use now, then it will be much later to try to cause a change in the land use. Well, the government is like this. It doesn't make good use of sites that are available, and try to just rush through its plans, like in the case of the airport third runway. Well, just then the administration said that there will be a review in 2 months. I was asking him, would he put that on hold until we can decide on making better use of the site here? So, Water Supplies Department Assistant Director, would you hold this item? Of course, we don't want to see this item be delayed and moving out be delayed, because we do need to develop the site. We would not choose to hold this item. Helena Wong, why is there such a rush? Why the rush? You have to go ahead with the project now. Why? Please tell me why. It's not that we're not allowing to build a new building, but we're talking about good use of the site. Well, even if you've done the review 2 years later, it would not be applicable to all items anyway. Can you explain to Mr. Kwok? Yes. The ASD and the government property department are doing an internal review on how we can, make better use of government properties through internal communications and consultations with departments. We've done a lot of work already, so we're now at the last stage of applying for funding. Just heard from the Water Supplies Department that they are going to build a regional office that will be in operation for 24 hours with maintenance vehicles going in and out of the site. So for other users, because of that, that could pose constraints on other users. And I know that the Water Supplies Department's project has also invited tenders. Maybe the department can confirm that with you, Assistant Director. Assistant Director? Yeah, ASD has invited tenders.
In other words, bids have come back. DAS? Yes. Dr. Helena Wong. Chairman, I have a question. After relocation, you said in para 10, you will look at a suitable premises at a convenient location in Kowloon to continue services for customers. Are you going to look for it only in 2017? Will it be in Mongkok? DWS. Thank you. We have a customers inquiry center in Mongkok now, serving people in Kowloon. It will not be removed. And then we are also going to look for a suitable place in the center of Kowloon to relocate this center. We are liaising with the GPA and hopefully we can find that location soon. And in 2017, we will relocate it, but it may not be in Mongkok. We have an open mind. It depends where we can find the location, but it must be in Kowloon. Okay, next I'd like to also ask about the Water Resources Education Center. It was opened in 2012. In the past 3 years, how many people visited the center? And how many on the average every year? AS of WSD, thank you. We were open for more than 2 years. 6,500 people came in 2013. We actively promoted the center and we invited schools to come. In 2014, the number of visitors went up to 9,000. I'm sure the number will exceed 10,000 this year. Because we are assigning more manpower to do promotion. How many WSD staff are there? It's temporary center only. It's a small center, so only 3 persons work there. You say that you aim at primary 4 general studies students or primary 5 students. If you are moved to Tin Shui Wai, do you also target primary 4 and 5 general studies students? or will you aim at older students? Thank you for the question. When we are moved to Tin Shui Wai, the themes and the exhibitions will be enriched and they will be more diversified, and we won't only aim at primary students, but the exhibitions will also cater to the needs of the public, and secondary students will welcome the public. I am quoting from your WSD website. You say the target of the Resource Education Center is primary 4 students, unless information on the website is wrong. Can you supplement the information for the center after relocation? Because what you said just now is different from what the website says. Thank you. Well, it's good for children to understand water resources from they are young. They start to learn about environment protection and water saving in primary 4. That is why we welcome them. And I believe primary 4 will still be the starting point. However, in the future center, there will be more exhibitions and many more other people can come. Of course, primary 4 students will still be our target. I'd like to follow up. If you are going to have new exhibitions at the center, you should supplement the information before you go to FC. I hope you will not just target primary students. I think secondary school students who study liberal studies may also want to go to the center. Maybe you can talk about the technology for desalination of water and also safety of potable water, because we are concerned whether the water sources for Dongjiang water will be polluted, and how do you treat water when it comes into Hong Kong? What kind of water quality will be regarded as good quality? Will you have such exhibitions at the Water Resources Education Center instead of just covering the points mentioned on your website? And also the catchment area for collecting water, how do they relate to the country parks? Can they be used for development in other aspects? If that's the case, what will be the impact on water sources for Hong Kong? I hope you will have a comprehensive exhibition so people who are looking for different information will visit your center. Assistant Director, can you promise that before this item goes to FC, you will provide a paper in order to satisfy the request of Dr. Helena Wong? Yes, I will do that. Thank you, Dr. Fernando Zheng. Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry I've come late. Maybe my question has been answered. In para 7, it says that the main reason for the relocation is for developing residential, commercial, office, hotel, open space, and or GIC facilities. Everything under the sun. I heard the WSD said the relocation is urgent. You would like to relocate the facility ASAP. But what the vacated land will be used for, you have mentioned everything under the sky. Residential, commercial, GIC, open space, community, whatever. I find this a little strange, Chairman. If you say you want to relocate urgently, you must have a confirmed plan to use the vacated land. In other words, you want to do something quick. That is why it is urgent. However, you are making a very general statement as to what the land will be used for. Where is the urgency? I find this strange. If it is urgent, you have to tell us the exact plan for the vacated land. Is it for a commercial block, a home for the elderly, or luxury flats? Can you let us know your concrete plan and why the urgency? Who will take the question? P.S. Mr. Thomas Chow, I will kick off, but Mr. Young can supplement. We have a policy to move government offices from busy areas in the urban area to other places if its operation does not require it to be situated in the urban area. This is to meet other needs in Hong Kong. With regard to this piece of land, the PWSC has already approved the relocation of the FEHD from Sai Yi Street. That project has been supported. This is the second part. After the land is vacated, the planning department is doing a study which will be completed by the end of the year, and facilities will be proposed. It should include open space and a public transport facility as required by the District Council. In Para 6, we know that the project will be completed only in mid-2019. We hope the land will be put in the market by 2020 so public facilities can be built. You mentioned other pieces of land that are vacated, but there should be concrete plans for using the land. Or else you will not have this plan to reprovision the facilities. But the PS, you still have not told me what the land will be used for. You say you will not rule out including public transport or public space asked for by the District Council, but that may only be the secondary part. What is the primary use of the land? Mr. Chow, as I said, the planning department will complete its study only at the end of the year. After the uses and the gross floor area are confirmed, we may have to rezone the land. The land now is zoned GIC. We will need time to rezone the land when the use is decided. The logic is a little strange, Chairman. If you talk about planning, you must have already got a concrete idea what the land will be used for before you move out the present facilities. You won't do it the other way around. Well, my understanding is this is the way the government goes about such projects. Even the 3 towers in Wan Chai will first be relocated before the land will be used for something else. I don't think we can have an answer today. I think Mr. Fernando Zhang is asking you to do your work in a different way, but just note it, Mr. Chow, and process it at the appropriate time. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, in the council, we must talk about common sense. Will you demolish your own house before you have alternate accommodation, so you sleep on the streets? Of course, no. If you have housing allowance, you will actually look for your desired flat before you move out. If you don't do it to yourself, why is the government doing it? I have not heard about this. You won't say, I will not sign another tenancy, but I have nowhere to move to. Donald Tsang knew that he should first rent some accommodation before he finished his term. You say we filibuster, but we can't help. You get on our nerves. You insult our wisdom. Number 2, Dr. Helena Wong asked you to talk about more about water resources. The source of philosophy is water. That is in Greek philosophy. You must educate the public about this. Don't be so laid back. Don't just be cosmetic. It is a good excuse for you to ask for money. You talk about Water Resources Education Center. I thank Dr. Helena Wong for pointing this out. I thought you would start from talking about water as in Greek philosophy. I have viewed a documentary and I was so moved because water can make you think, but now the WSD is not thinking. I have the same view as Dr. Fernando Zhang. You are trying to scramble for land And then you say, I don't know what the land can be used for. C.Y. Leung says, everything is problematic because the opposition camp doesn't allow him to get land. He said the diehards, opponents, do not allow him to have land. What kind of logic is this? When we monitor you, we have Dr. Lo Wai Kwok here. You always say we stand in the way of the government getting land. But now this is a rich morsel. This is the land. And you are telling me I don't know what it is used for. You might very well put up a hotel block there. Is this the way you work and you are asking me for money? It is a very simple thing. You want to have this as a fait accompli. You come here for funding support. You always say it is urgent. But you must have a source of thinking before you want to remove the facilities. You may say there is a black spot, you want to expand the plot ratio, etc. But then the crux of the matter is what you are going to use the land for. The Development Bureau is not represented here, and we only have one government, don't we? We ask this question, and the Development Bureau should answer it because the Planning Department works under the Bureau. But we don't have any officials from the Bureau here. What kind of governance is this? We give you the money, and then you will say, what has the Legislative Council do? That is an important piece of land, and yet you allow it to be used for a hotel. Chairman, my question is, we can ask the Bureau the question by writing it a letter.
Okay.
Mr. Leung, I think you have adequately expressed your views, and so have other members. I think we have to wait till the Bureau finishes the review, and then we'll wait for his report. So if members have no other questions, I will put this item to a vote. Those who are in favor, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. So I declare that members who voted, most of them support this item, so this item was endorsed. So members will move on to item 4, PWSC 2015-16, Head 711, Housing. The paper proposes the upgrading of the 757CR project to Category A, involving an estimated cost of $224.5 million. In 2015, February 2nd, the administration consulted the relevant panel, and members agree with referring this item to PWSC, and the report of the previous panel meeting was tabled before you. Now with us are representatives from the Transport and Housing Bureau, Civil Engineering and Development Bureau, and Housing Department. So who will explain the item to us? So first of all, invite Chief Civil Engineer from the Transport and Housing Bureau, Mr. Lo Kwok Kong, to explain it to us. Thank you. I'm here to ask members for your support to upgrade Project 757CL to Category A. I will briefly explain the project, but the details can be found in the paper. 757CL actually has the purposes of provide land to for the building of public housing, and also to provide the work needed for the residential developments in Area 16 and 58D in Sha Tin. And the proposed PRH development will provide 4,800 flats by 2018-19. The project comprises widening and realignment of a section of Kwai Ting Sanchun Road to a single two-lane carriageway with associated retaining walls works, footpaths, and crossing facilities. The land vacated by the awardee will be used for PRH. And the project also comprises widening of a section of Wan Chuk Yang Street from Kwai Tang Sanchun Road to Wu Shun Tong Street to a single two-layer carriageway with associated slopeworks, laybys, footpaths, and crossing facilities. Besides that, it will also involve ancillary works, including drainage, sewerage, water supply system, and landscaping works. The cost required is about $224.5 million. We hope that members will support this project so that we can submit it to the Finance Committee for funding request. The project will begin in late 2015 for completion in mid-2018. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Mr. Low. So now it's time for questions. The first one is Amy Lau, followed by Kwok Kaki. Well, Chairman, if the administration can quickly find land to build more housing, certainly I think that is what the public wants to see. But in the process, you need to sort out a lot of disputes. In paragraph 14, it's mentioned that there are some objectors to the project because you talk about the resumption of the private land, and after a round of discussions, no solution was found. And paragraph 15 says that the Chief Executive in Council authorized the scheme in accordance with the ordinance without modification on January 6, 2015, and it was gazetted on February 13. Can you tell me how many people objected? On what grounds? You're going to offer compensation, right? How are you going to deal with the opposition? So what's happened after the gazettal? Mr. Low? These public works does not involve resumption of land, but only getting back of a piece of land, government land on private lease to build the roads. People objected because in the process of public rental housing, some private land will be 10 plots of private land will be resumed. But with authorization from the Chief Executive in Council, the land have been returned to the government, and the Lands Department is also having negotiations with the people affected. So after gazettal, they can still object, right? Have they still objected, or are you now handling their requests? The land has been returned to the government. We are now negotiating with people living there. What does that mean, Chairman? Are you offering compensation, or are you providing accommodation for them? For details, maybe the district lands officer can give you the details. Ms. Rosanna Chair? Can you switch on the mic, please? Okay. In response to Ms. Lau's question, under the current land resumption policy, landowners are entitled to ex gratia payment. For people affected, that is, people who live on the site, if they're qualified, the housing department can provide them with some resettlement and offering some special allowance for relocation. For people who are not qualified, the housing department will arrange them to be housed in temporary shelters. Ms. Lau may be concerned about the outcome of negotiations so far. There are 10 private farmlands which were affected, and once we've issued the proposal for compensation, a number of them have accepted our package. There are people living on one piece of land who still object, but gradually they have one after another cooperated and let our staff carry out investigation at the site and collect information for the housing department to handle their accommodation request. So the farmlands, are you swapping farmlands for farmlands? No. I think, Ms. Lau, you were referring to, allowing people to, true farmers. But in this case, the people affected, they're not farmers. So if for the true farmers, they will have their own farmlands or can ask the government for short-term arrangement for building their own places to live in. But the people affected in this case are not farmers. If they are landowners, we'll give them compensation to them. But if the people affected, we'll see whether we can find alternative housing for them. Kwakaki? I do support this project. But I want to ask about paragraph 9 in the paper. It says that because of insufficient in-house resources, they would engage consultants to undertake the contract administration and site supervision for the proposed works. No problem with that. But would this affect the quality of monitoring, the reliability of supervision? We also worry about potential budget overruns. We've learned lessons. Often consultants, depending on who you hire, some can be helpful, but some may not help in controlling staff working hours and costs. So how do you decide who to hire? What are the track records of the consultants? Do you think they can really help the administration in controlling the costs and the man-months? Mr. Low? The Civil Engineering and Development Department will help with us in that regard. So, yes, Director of CEDD. Thank you, Dr. Kwok. This time we'll hire consultants to carry out the design and site supervision work. Hiring consultants is very common for us, especially when we are understaffed. We have a very good system in hiring consultants. For other works, we adopt the same approach. And for this latest project, it's relatively simple, not complicated. So in terms of the quality of works, we're very confident that consultants, having outsourced the work to consultants will lead to problems with the supervision. And Dr. Kwok also mentioned the budget, whether there be overruns. I think for this item, as I mentioned earlier, relatively speaking, is a simple one. We're confident that, unless there are some totally unforeseen scenarios, otherwise we are confident that there will be no budget overrun. Well, Chairman, seems like hiring an external consultant is a norm now. But is that the reason why? Well, this is a small project. Like in the case of the high-speed rail link, it incurred 90 billion and more. For some new projects, there may be a chance of. Well, you said this latest project is small, but if it's a big project involving a large amount of budget, then there could be a risk of overrun. Has the administration considered increasing its own manpower to ensure site supervision instead of sourcing it all out to contractors without, having the ability to control the cost and man hours? CEDD's director? Yes, I think for the time involved for a project and the costs, whether they would fit our original estimates is not really dependent on whether we're hiring consultants or we are doing it ourselves. I think the most important is the design and the requirements of the contract, whether they are clear, and also whether we have come across any unforeseen situations. So if something that's beyond our expectation, then no matter is the consultants doing it for us or us doing it ourselves, the situation will be the same. If no other questions of members, I'll put this item to a vote. Those members who are in favor, please raise your hands. Those against, please raise your hands. So I will declare that members present who joined the vote, most of them support this item. So the item was endorsed. Members, we have still got a number of outstanding items. If you have no objection, I will extend this meeting by 15 minutes to begin the next item. But I don't think we will be able to finish it, but I just want to make a start first. No objection. So let's move on to, we'll extend this meeting to 10:45. The next item is PWSC 2015-16-14, 845DH, Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, Hong Kong Boundary Crossing Facilities Reclamation and Superstructures. This is to raise the estimate cost of the project to $35,895 million from $30,433.9 million, an increase of $5,461.1 million. The relevant panel was consulted on this project, and on March 11, the administration had provided supplementary information to the transport panel, and the key points of the report of the panel have been tabled before you. Now we have with us representatives from the Transport and Housing and the representatives from the Zhuhai-Macau Bridge Hong Kong Project Management Office.
Mr. Yao, can you walk us through the paper, please? Under Secretary. Chairman, this is a paper asking for increasing the approved project estimate for the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge boundary crossing facilities. In January, we already consulted the transport panel of LC, and the panel supports the forwarding of the request to the PWSC. In 2011, the administration applied for an estimate of $30433.9 million, and we looked at the market situation there and also the pricing information for similar projects, including the indices of the Highways Department and also the construction index. But then afterwards, the prices went up. This is particularly evident with regard to large-scale projects, and that is why the BCP and superstructures saw tender prices shoot up by about 40% at the end of 2013 as compared to 2011. We think there are a few major reasons. First of all, the plant and material and labor costs for heavy civil engineering works going up, and also building works indices going up, so there is extra risk, and also tenderers' perception on higher program risk due to tight works program. The Highways Department has already carefully assessed the increase in estimate. We would like to ask the LegCo to increase the project estimate by $5461.1 million in order to increase the approved project estimate to $35895 million. The details are in the paper. Since there are 10 contracts of the BCP and 7 of the contracts have been commissioned, they total 90% of all the contract value of the BCP. Therefore, we believe the project estimate that we are asking for should be pretty accurate. As to the overall progress of the bridge, I'd like to give members a brief report here. The bridge is the first cross-boundary project that will be taken up by all the three governments. It measures 41.6 kilometers and it links Hong Kong with the west coast of PRD, Guangxi, and also the western part of Guangdong. So we can link up with the hinterland in the southwest of the country. The bridge uses state-of-the-art engineering technology, and it will be the longest cross-harbor bridge carrying a road as well. There will be the main span, which will be built on the mainland, and then the three governments will build the BCPs and also the connection roads. The three governments have set up the Joint Works Committee of the three governments, or JWC. It opined that it would be very difficult for the entire project to be completed at the same time by end 2016. The JWC and the authority will further conduct an in-depth and objective analysis on the program with a view to coming up with a target program. Besides, the director of the Guangdong Development and Reform Commission also said at the press conference of the third session of the People's Congress held on the 10th of February 2015 that the project encountered many unforeseen difficulties and technical problems, and it appeared very difficult to complete and commission the entire bridge by end 2016. The JWC and the authority will continue to implement the relevant projects and to overcome the technical difficulties encountered and the pressure in meeting the program schedule. With safety and quality assurance as major premises, we would like to strive to complete the main bridge as well as the related projects of the three sites as early as practicable for the smooth commissioning of the project. As for local projects in Hong Kong, according to the current progress, the Hong Kong BCP and Hong Kong LR projects may not be completed in time by end 2016. Highways is reviewing the anticipated completion date. It will liaise with the resident engineers to monitor the project closely. The supervisor contractor will push forward the project under safety considerations. Thank you, Under Secretary. The floor is now open to questions. First, KK Kwok. Chairman, why have we embarked on this project? We would not have done so had we known the present problems. First, we don't even know when the bridge will be completed. Second, we don't know how we can connect to the bridge because there are so many technical problems. And number three, as we see it today, as the Undersecretary said, this is really integrating for the sake of integration. It is a white elephant project. I remember at the transport panel, we said we face congestion in Hong Kong, we don't have enough roads in Hong Kong, but now you introduce more cars into Hong Kong. And if you really allow cars from Macau and PLD to come into Hong Kong directly, you are slapping your own face. Mr. Yao, you should know this. As we see it, we already need to find ways to suppress the increase of private cars in Hong Kong. And now you are building a bridge with an astronomical pricing. I think this is outrageous. And secondly, prices continue to shoot up. As of this moment, you have increased it by $5 billion, but I don't think this will take us to the completion of the project. The biggest problem is, now according to reports, we may not be able to connect to the bridge because of technical problems. My question for the Undersecretary is, after we build the BCP, and yet if we cannot connect to the bridge, it will be an aborted project. And the $30-odd billion will go down the drain. I like what the FS says, that we don't have money. We want more medical and welfare services. We want to have universal retirement protection, and he says there is no money for it. So if we don't have money, why do we want to appear as a big spender? I think you should call a halt to the project. Don't make a bigger mistake just because you have already made one. Mr. Yao, about Mr. Kwok's question, I think there are two aspects. Number one, increase in number of cars. We have not estimated an increase in cars crossing the boundary. Cars that would use this bridge would be cars that are using other boundary crossings now. In other words, cars will not increase in number just because of the opening of the bridge. Now, later on, whether more cars will be allowed to come into Hong Kong, that is what we are going to have to discuss with the mainland. But at present, we do not have plans to increase the number of cars on a large scale. We believe by having this bridge, freight transportation will be convenienced. Our trucks will be able to link up with the west of PLD, will be made easier, and this will consolidate our status as a logistics hub. And also, this will facilitate mass carriers like buses going to the mainland. Therefore, we don't think this will generate a big transport volume for Hong Kong. I don't know whether I should go to the second part, Chairman. Okay, you can revisit the issue. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong has asked to speak, but before I give you the floor, since more members are here now, I'd like to say three things. Number one, I don't know whether you would like to single out any of the supported three items for separate voting at FC. Would anyone like to propose this? Okay. Secondly, at the last meeting, in scrutinizing sludge treatment in Tuen Mun, you wanted to go to Nim Wan in Tuen Mun for a site visit. We'd like to thank the clerk for making the arrangement. This will take place in the morning of the 27th of this month. Please block your diary. The clerk has said that she will issue a reminder nearer the date. The next meeting will be held on Tuesday at 8:30. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, you will have the floor. After you have spoken, we will adjourn the meeting. Mr. Leung, I think what Mr. Yao said is laughable. I don't think he has spoken as a reasonable person. Number one, the infrastructure should be built at the best opportunity. You are telling me that you don't expect the bridge will attract more cars. So why build it? You need to maintain and repair it. So why build it if you will not have to handle a bigger transport volume? You are building infrastructure that competes with Hong Kong, the XLL, the BCPs, unless you estimate that the economy on the mainland will forever increase. But I beg your pardon, they are just printing more dollar notes, and the per capita GDP is decreasing, and technically there is stagflation. Who are you? What officials are you? You think they can increase an 8% growth every year? People already tell you that is not the case. There is already stagflation. Come to your senses. I am always criticized in the council, but you are not giving us answers. I will ask you again. If this bridge will be functional, there will be many more cars coming into Hong Kong. You say this bridge may be for freight transportation. What are you saying? If there is 1% drop in the mainland's economy, well, they would be very much afraid. What can they give you? If that happens, what kind of freight will come to Hong Kong? They will just be helping Li Ka-shing because he monopolizes everything. The market mechanism is totally in the hands of Li Ka-shing. We are just helping him. If it is just for freight transport, you don't need to do so many things. The pro-establishment camp is also crazy. They are talking about bridgehead economy. They count people flow, they count cash flow. Come clean. I have never seen a place where, when it cannot take care of its own transportation, you want to introduce more cars into that place. Look at New York. You have to spend 2 hours queuing up to go into New York. New York now has a headache. Now New York has to build more infrastructure. Frankly, your IQ is really low. This is what the administration is like. There are die-hard factions. You want to label us. I'm like a prophet, and of course prophets can be stoned to death. Here, I'm telling you, the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge is a misconceived project. It is like a present from Hong Kong. Every CE has to present a present to the mainland. Now you must halt it. I think it was a present for Macau and Zhuhai, and we had to pay more than half of the project cost at the beginning, and of course I managed to scold you so much. You did something. This may not be CY Leung's project. This is a kind of deep-seated conflict, and I want you to call a halt to it. I'm sure you will get the money, but we would have to put this on record. This bridge is a masterpiece of the pro-establishment camp. It is so sad. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.